Good evening and welcome to tonight's driver's ed class. We are in our final stretch. We are in our last week. So hopefully people have remembered that tonight we're having class. I see we've got one person viewing. We'll wait as we normally do for people to log in. Remember to sign in text message wise, and then also if you could put your name up there on YouTube. So good evening. We'll wait for everybody. Oh, I got new music. Let's put on the new music. Here we go. Let's kind of get jiggy with it. Good to see that people are starting to log in now. Since this is our last week of classroom, remember to get your homework in, worksheets, chapter questions that you had to do. Remember, you're finding most of the worksheets and test questions from our Facebook page, and I did log in this morning to our remote Facebook page, and I downloaded two worksheets. One, well, I'm having a hard time when I have a worksheet that has a front side and a back side, but I'm going to take a picture and make it two separate worksheets. So there's a worksheet on highway driving, and then there's a worksheet on a crash report that we're going to be taking a look at and filling out. And I might be able to even put that up on the screen so you know what I'm talking about. So you can go on to the Facebook. This is what we're going to be taking a look at. Let's see if this works. Yep, there it is. Okay, so let me put both of them up here. This is what you're going to find on the Facebook page. Let me just mute the sound. So this worksheet is going to be filled out after we get done tonight's class. And what I want you to do is to do section A, B, C. No, I take that back. A, B, D, and E and F. So the only section that I don't want you to do is section C. So section C of this, you don't have to fill out. It has to do with passengers in the vehicle. And what I want you to do with this is to come up with a scenario of a crash. Someone hit you, you hit somebody. So on section D, when it talks about your vehicle or the other vehicle, you're basically giving me somewhat truthful information about you, but everything about the other vehicle can be totally made up. You know, who it is, make up a person, could be a celebrity, the car that they're driving. I don't need to know actual information to be truthful. So just make up street names, stuff like that. Now, section E, I do want you to do somewhat truthful. Where it says insurance company, I really believe that everybody should know who their insurance company is. And hopefully after tonight, you're going to have a different perspective about insurance and filling out a crash report if you ever get involved in an incident where someone's hit you or you hit somebody. But it's important to know who your insurance company is, who your agent is, a telephone number to call. So I don't need the policy number. Okay, so make sure you don't give me your policy number. You don't have to tell your parents that I need personal information about your policy. But I do believe you should know the person you're going to be speaking to and the phone number. So rather than policy number, just put the telephone number of the insurance company. If you don't have insurance, and I would think that most parents would, if you don't have insurance, what I want you to do in section E is to come up with 3 different insurance companies and what their phone number is, because that's who you'd be calling. Now, calling an insurance company is different than making a claim. So I do want to point that out. Usually they give you a card that you keep in your glove compartment or that you can keep in your wallet, and you're going to be talking to someone specifically about what happened during the crash. And then the Section F is basically direction of your vehicle, where was it located, what type of vehicle. It's really a very easy form to fill out. It really doesn't take a lot of time. I would say that it should take you probably 10, 15 minutes to do it for homework. And the same thing when you're on the side of the road and the police are investigating. They're helping you get some of that information. But we'll talk more about that as we get into tonight's class. So tonight's class, we're going to focus at the beginning on car insurance and car crashes. And then we're going to switch over to highway driving. And we'll hit up on that a little bit because we do have a driving lesson out on the highway where I try to get you to merge on and off a few times. We do the Lee Circle. Sometimes we do the Portsmouth Circle. It's important that you have a basic understanding of what to do. So we'll talk about that tonight. Tomorrow we'll finish up with sharing the road with other users. And we'll do probably manual transmission because I never got to that. The final, which will be on Wednesday, we will have a little bit of class. You won't really be tested. There may be one question because we haven't been able to get in distracted driving. So we're going to do that maybe for about 40 minutes or so. And then the rest of the time, Wednesday, will be your final. Now, make sure you write this down. I do have to give you a certificate when you complete driver's ed. So finishing up the class is important. Okay, you have to get a passing grade, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow night. But we're getting near the end of driving for a lot of you. Now, I finished somebody up today. I'm going to let you have the textbook. Not that if you've taken good notes, you probably should study your notes in the state manual more than the textbook. But I'm going to let you keep the textbook until Wednesday. If we're driving on Wednesday and it's your last time, you may want to hand me in the textbook, but then I still have to get your green certificate to you. So we'll probably do that on Saturday. And I might just make a drop off the textbook on Saturday time. And if you're all done your driving, I'll hand out your certificate at that point because I want to make sure that everything is filled out correctly and I get the textbook back. So we have to make some type of arrangement for that to take place. But I'm still trying to work that out. Get out some paper and something to write with. We're going to give you some notes on insurance. It's a little bit more involved than what the state manual does. I think it's really important that you have a basic understanding of how insurance works. And of course, we're going to talk a little bit about car crashes. What's going to happen when you get hit and someone is responsible for your medical payments and getting your car back to its normal condition? How does that take place? And, what type of insurance do I need? So let's talk a little bit about accidents. Now, I like the word crashes better than accidents, but for some strange reason, the state still hasn't changed the wording in the manual. So we're going to call it crashes and financial responsibility. Now, you've probably heard the term defensive driving. Okay, defensive driving means that you are always expecting the worst from the other person. I think that's the way that we're going to have to drive nowadays because there are so many people that are negligent in their driving skills that they either don't care or they've never been taught how to do it correctly, and they're coming to intersections, they're coming to parking lots, and there's no rhyme or reason to what they're doing. So how can we figure that out, and what do we need to do behind the wheel of the car to make sure that we're not going to be involved in some type of a crash? So the first statement here, if every driver always obeyed the rules, always drove sensibly, driving would be simpler and safer. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So being a defensive driver, what do we need to do? So I want you to write this down because I always want you to think about driving really begins with your eyes. And we've spent a lot of time in this class talking about how we can use our eyes. What are we looking for? How far down the road are we looking? How do we come up with a plan with options and choices? So you're always looking out for what's going to happen up ahead. And here's the second part that some people aren't able to do or willing to do. You must be willing to adjust your own driving so you won't be involved in a crash. I've heard a lot of students say, well, Mr. Toll, if I slammed on the brakes right now and we got hit from behind, it would be their fault, correct? They would have to fix the car. Now, yeah, that's true. They're following too closely. But why would we want to encourage a crash? Now, you're going to find that in some cases, if you ever go to court, no one's going to be found 100% at fault. Because if you had a willingness or an unwillingness, let's put it that way, if you had an unwillingness to make things better, they may find you partially at fault. So think of a 100% pie, a circle representing 100%. You go to court, they could assume the other person that was more at fault, so that's basically 70%, and you could be left with 30%. And that's how they would determine who's going to pay what. And they would take the total cost and they'd split it 70-30. You may not want it that way. So it'd be much better to your benefit to just avoid it entirely. Okay, don't encourage or be unwilling to adjust your driving to not be involved in a crash. Other things about being defensive: staying alert, keeping your eyes moving, look for trouble spots developing, always keep a proper distance, and expect the other driver to do the wrong thing. And to have some type of plan of action, just in case they're doing something wrong. Oh, I think I got ahead of myself. Okay, here we go. Protecting yourself in a crash. One of the most common places to be hit from is from behind. So what I want you to write down in your notes, being hit from behind is probably like a 60 to 70% chance of being your first crash. Because people are being distracted, people on their phone, people going too fast, could be weather. More people are hit from behind than any other position, whether it be T-bone from left or right or a head-on crash, because you get to see things a little bit better with your peripheral vision and looking forward. You really have no control over your back end. Think about it. You have more control over your front than your back. You have no control over the left, right, or rear. People next to you can move up beside you, stay there. You speed up, they speed up. You slow down, they slow down. The only area that you have complete control over is the front of your vehicle. If someone slows down to 15, you can slow down to 10. You can slow down even more. So you'll always have more control over your front. Being hit from the side, we find in intersections and parking lots where cars are backing out. Those are the two most common areas from being hit from the side. So brace yourself with the steering wheel, because you could get thrown or your car get pushed into oncoming traffic. So be ready to steer so you don't get hit again. Very important that, remember, the airbags only deploy once. So if you get hit from the side, the airbags come out. You better hope you don't get hit again, because you've got nothing but your seatbelt now. Now, hopefully you're in your seatbelt. So being hit from the side can be a multi-type of crash where you're getting hit multiple times by cars coming at you. Now, the worst of all the different types of crashes would be the frontal crash, being hit from the front. Um, I'm not going to go through what the manual says right here. All I want you to write down your notes, and this is a little bit different. I probably should have included that. You should brake as quickly and as hard as possible. Anytime that you can lower your speed, which will lower the impact of the oncoming car's total collision with you, your chance of survival will be much greater. So let me give you an example. If you're going 55 and they're going 55 and neither one of you goes to the brake, it's like hitting something at 110 miles per hour because you're totaling the two speeds. So if you're hitting the brakes as hard and as quickly as you possibly can, and you get it down to around 20, 25 when you finally get hit, and they're still going at 55, it's like getting something hit at like 70, 75. So much better than, 110. Now, hopefully they're slowing down too. At some point in your life, you're probably going to be involved in a collision. So what I want you to do up on Facebook, because I'm not going to look at my phone right now, in the comments, and I'm going to keep on teaching, but I want you to include or give me an idea if you've been involved in a collision. So granted, I know that you're not the driver, but you are a passenger. Have you been in a car that's been hit? So let's see how many people have actually been in a vehicle. It'll be interesting to see the names popping up. Yes, yes. Because I think at some point in your life, you know that it's going to happen. Let's say that you are the cause of it. The most important thing right here in bold type is to stop. See, we already got one. So please do not be a person that does a hit and run. A hit and run means that you drive away because you do not want to get in trouble. Now, I showed you a video last Thursday of an individual who was drunk. Remember the YouTube confession? That's a hit and run. Okay? The consequences are going to be greater. So if you think, I don't want to get in trouble, well, guess what? You can't undo what you just did. It can only get worse. So if you're driving away, your consequences are going to be worse than if you were just to face the music and take care of the task at hand, and that's being responsible. So I really want you to really take notes on this section right here. Okay? And we're going to talk a little bit about, and we're going to get a little bit more involved than what you see in this PowerPoint and what the state has said, because I want you to have a basic understanding of some things. Now, here is where I'm going to differ from what you see on the screen. It says, if you can, move your vehicle off the road so you do not block traffic or be involved in another crash. Now, even though I do totally believe that, I want you to do this, and I want you to write this down. If you can, now some situations you can't. If you can, get out, and I'm going to get out of here for a second and go to my screen of me. Is take out your phone and take a picture of the crash scene. So take a picture from all four sides. So make sure you write that down. If you can, move before you move the vehicle, is take a picture from a distance. You don't want to be up close. You want to be back probably, 40 feet, 50 feet from the cars. So you get to see the whole vehicle and their vehicle. So do the front, do the back, and do left and right. Okay, you're going to be able to use that not only for filling out that crash report, but you're going to be able to send that information to your insurance company so they can make heads or tails out of what happened. And that's the reason why I wanted you to write this down, is because after you move your vehicle, it will be very hard for you to prove what actually happened, because now it becomes your word against their word. And most people are going to try to minimize their guilt, their fault. So they're going to say, oh, I wasn't really over the center line. They came towards me. or I really wasn't going that fast. But there are no skid marks because the road was a little bit wet. You can't see the marks. Placement of the car is going to show exactly where the car was. And when you move it, it may not even be even close by to where the crash actually happened. It could be 40, 50 feet away, especially at intersections. Now, when it says call 911, it's important to know that emergency care comes out for everybody. So when you do call that, you get the police, you get the ambulance, you get the fire trucks. Everybody comes on that 911 call, so you don't have to call separate people. Now, when it comes to giving aid to people, it's very important that you stay within your training, within your skill level. If you've ever been trained in first aid, by all means, people need your help. If they're bleeding, the bleeding needs to stop. If they can't breathe, if you feel comfortable with CPR, I would give it to someone, because life or death is a matter of seconds, and you may not have that. You can't wait for the ambulance to come because it could be a 15, 20-minute, response time. So your movement or your readiness to help out could save someone's life. Now, if you've been trained in first aid, you basically know a couple things. Okay, one, once you start giving CPR, you're not supposed to stop until someone can help out and take over, a trained professional. The other thing is that you do have some protections when you help somebody. A lot of people go, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to get sued. I don't want to help out. Although you're not obligated to help out, if you do, there's something called the Good Samaritan law, which means that if you stay within your training skill level, it's very difficult to sue you. Because then most people would never give anybody any help, because they would just say, I don't want to get sued, so I'm just going to, let the person, stop breathing. So try to help people out. The other thing is give the names and addresses of all people involved. Now, because of cell phones, I'm going to reiterate this a couple times during this little segment. Take out your phone, ask for ID. The best thing that you can do, write this down, the best thing that you can do is to take pictures of people's ID. If they're older than 16, they probably have a driver's license. If they're younger than 16, I don't know, maybe they've got a school ID card or something like that. But a lot of people aren't going to be carrying around paper and pen. Or if they do, it's in the car and they don't want to get back in after the crash because the car is smoking and stuff like that, and you're afraid that it could catch fire. I wouldn't go back in to get pen and paper. But you still probably have your cell phone with you, so maybe make a voice memo or something like that. If you don't have something to write down, have them just kind of speak into your phone. That way, when you're filling out your reports, you'll have all that information. Give the other person the same information, okay? Now, when it talks about driver's license number, state of issue, if you've taken the picture, it's right on it. The other thing is take a picture of their registration. So write that down. All this information is really in two places, one on registration and one on your license. Never, ever, okay, and I'm going to get out of here again so you can see me, so you can see that I'm saying never, ever. Never, ever believe someone when they give you this information. Always ask for their driver's license, or wait till the police come and then get the information. Because even though people, I told you, you don't want to hit and run. So people are going to say, I'm going to do the responsible thing, but then they're going to give you all false information. They make up a name, they make up an address, they make up a phone number. How do you know that they're telling the truth? You don't. Why would someone be lying? For one, there are people around that are viewing this. Secondly, it's not their car. Okay, it could be a stolen car. Could be a person that doesn't have a license. It's been suspended or revoked. They don't want to get into more trouble, so they're going to give you false information. So make sure, okay, you call the police and wait for the police to help you out determining who this person is who has hit you. I had a student tell me once that she got hit in a Wendy's parking lot. It was not her fault, she said. The guy even admitted to it, says, I'm so sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I backed out into you when you were going through the drive-through. It looks like it's probably under $1,000 worth of damage. I will pay for it out of pocket. I don't want to get my insurance company involved. Let's just do this as responsible people. Give me your number. I'll call you, and I'll pay out of pocket. Well, he did call, but he made it seem like it was her fault. And he screamed at her and her dad, indicating that she was irresponsible and she was the one that was not paying attention. And when in fact, it was the other way around. So he tried to muscle her verbally and try to change the scenario. Now, your license number is your birthday and your initials to your name. All right? Very easy to figure it out. I don't know if I gave you that information or not already, but very easy to figure it out. We're actually going to a different type of driver's license after this year. So you're going to get one, and then you're going to have to switch it within a year. So you're going to have to get what they call is a real ID. If we have more time, then I'll probably get into it. Give the other driver the same information. Note the details of the crash. That's going to be part of that worksheet that we did, or you're going to do. If the crash involved a parked vehicle or property, you have to leave a note indicating how to get in touch with you. Insurance company information should be given too. And lastly, you should see a doctor. Now, like I said earlier, you should know your insurance company. Mine is Progressive. That's who I have insurance with. I know my agent. I don't personally know the phone number, but I have access to the number so I can process all this information in a timely manner. There's nothing that's going to aggravate an adult is when a teenager hits them, is at fault, and is of no help on providing the information that we're talking about. So hopefully after tonight, you're going to have all this information, and people will be impressed with what you say and what you do at the scene of a crash. Okay? Really, really important. Don't be one of these type of people. When I said leave a note, okay, here's a person that didn't want to do a hit and run and leave, so he made it seem like he was doing the right thing. It says, hi, my name is Jack. I accidentally hit your car, and someone saw me, so I'm pretending to write down my details. Sorry. So there's a person that does not know the name, address, phone number of the person that hit him. I'm questioning whether his name is Jack. Okay, it could be something else. Now, I told you that I'm not going to test you on money, fines, things like that. This is one situation I will. So on the final on Wednesday, this question will definitely come up. In New Hampshire, if anyone is killed or injured, or if there's property damage that totals more than $1,000 worth of damage, you have to file an accident report to the DMV within 15 days. Okay, that's the law. If you don't do that, and the other person files and he's got your information, they're going to follow up. And it's going to be a real problem for you. So make sure. If you're unsure, still file it. If a police officer investigates, they'll be filling out one. You may piggyback on their information once they send it to the state. So you don't have to do it if they do it. So let's talk about you've just been hit. The car can be moved. It's not something that's totaled. You've taken the pictures. You've gone outside of your vehicle. You've slowed traffic down, and traffic is moving slowly into a breakdown lane to go around you. You've now taken 4 pictures of the crash scene. You've gone around your vehicle. Now the next thing that you should do is where you're going to put your car until help comes. Pull off the road for a distance of at least 200 feet. Anything that deals with numbers that I've gone over is fair game for the final. So make sure that you write that down. Because you don't want people to come around a corner over a hill and not be able to handle what they see. If it's too close, they're going to hit you. And now there's 3 cars involved or 4 cars. So place flares, triangles, anything that's going to warn people that there's a crash. We've already talked about, you've already called 911. Make sure the cars are off, because sometimes cars will spark, or what we call arc, and ignite, because when there's fluid that's flammable, it's kind of spilling out all over the place. You never know when there could be a spark or something that would catch the whole scene on fire. Get anybody that's in the car out. Unless they're injured, then you got to be careful about getting them out, because you may make the situation worse. All right? So wait till a trained professional comes, and then they will make the determination of how to get that person extracted from the vehicle. I think if you live in Durham, go to Oyster River. This place looks quite familiar to you. This is Madbury Road. If you take a look, that there is a opening between a silver car and a white car. This is right in front of where Saxby's Coffee used to be. There's a new coffee place going in. Well, I wanted to show you, this is where the driver's ed vehicle got hit probably about 2 years ago. We were going down Madbury Road to go into town to work on lane changes, and someone shot right through that opening thinking that the roadway was clear and hit the driver's ed vehicle. T-boned us. Now, to be honest with you, I didn't think it was that much damage. Look at that. That's the damage, all right? So what I want you to do, now I don't want you to do it on YouTube comments, but I want you to do it on a text message. So I'm going to see who's still here, because I'm looking at the numbers, and we're just down, I think, 1 or 2 people. So I want you to text me how much damage, money-wise, is done to the vehicle. Right there, okay? That area of the vehicle needs to be fixed. So text me what you think the dollar amount is. And the person that gets the closest to the number, okay, I will give you a tire gauge, okay, a little trinket from driver's ed. I will give you a tire gauge to monitor your tire pressure to the person that comes the closest to the total amount. But you got to text it to me. Don't put it up on YouTube, because I don't want people to see what the answers are. So I'm going to take a look at, and I'll tell you at the end of tonight, during one of the videos, I'll take a look at what you've texted in, and I'll see what it is. Oh, a few of you already texted in a couple numbers. That's good. All right. There's the damage to the vehicle that hit me, because you can see that the bumper isn't that bad. So they did, try to stop, but they were kind of coming out a little bit too fast. So they just kind of pushed in. It did move the car towards the center line, and the car was, of course, drivable. So we had to call the student's dad, and we told him what happened and that would be coming back to school. He didn't want to finish driving. He was just a little bit too shooken up. But I drove with the student right after this. I think it happened around like 9:15 or something. I drove with the student at 10 o'clock. So it didn't shake me up. Here's the girl. She's from Massachusetts. I blacked out all the information from it. But she was from Massachusetts. And by the way, she told me this was not her first crash, because she called her dad, and I heard it say, "Dad, I've had another car crash." So not the best driver. Not the best driver. So back to what to do at the scene. If the car is steaming, sparks or whatever, get everybody out. I would get away from the vehicle. I wouldn't try to put out any type of fire. But also be careful at the scene of a crash, because if there are fluids that are leaking, if you are a smoker, and I probably would suspect that none of you are, but an older person, don't be too shy. If you see like a construction worker or something in their 40s, 50s, they may be so upset, and the way they relieve stress is to smoke a cigarette. Hey, I would get right in his face and say, hey, can you put that out? We're walking around a crash scene here, and there's like oil and gas leaking all over the place. Please put that out. The thing about fallen electrical wires, I want you to think about this, is that who is more likely, or who's most likely to go off the edge of the road and hit a telephone pole and snap it in two? There are at least three groups of people that come to mind. The first one would be a teenager driving too fast, can't keep his car in his lane because he's going too fast, leaves the roadway, especially if it's a left-hand turn, crashes into a telephone pole, snaps it in two. Now the electrical wires are hanging all over the vehicle. Second person would be an elderly person that has just lost control of the vehicle, maybe at night. The other person that comes to mind would be a person under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Now, the person that has alcohol and drugs in their system, they may not have their wits about them, and they may try to leave the vehicle. Now, think about this. If you've hit a telephone pole and it's snapped in two and the wires are on top of the car and it's sparking like the 4th of July, I mean, you've got sparks going all over the place. Think about it. You're still alive. Things aren't going to get worse, unless there's gas, of course. Then it could. But be very careful. What this little thing here is telling you is that if you open up your door and step out with your left foot, but you still have your butt in the seat and your right foot in the car, like we normally do. When we get out of the car, our left foot touches the ground, but our right foot is still in the car. You now become grounded. You will be electrocuted. The charge will go through you. Stay in the vehicle until help comes. They've turned off the power at the power grid. If you do have to get out because it is sparking and you're afraid of gasoline being ignited, jump free of the car with both feet at the same time. So that means opening the door, standing on the door jamb, and then jumping out with both feet. We've already talked about what to do with other people, making sure that first aid is given to those that need it. If there's multiple people in the car, then it's going to be, the most serious person you're tending to. Stay with injured people till the ambulance comes. If you're not the first person at the scene, just keep going. I will tell you, one of the worst things that's ever happened in the driver's ed vehicle is hitting an animal. We hit a dog, and we killed it. We had to find the owner, and we had to call the police, and we did have to file a report. It was not the student's fault. There was nothing the student could have done. I was not angry. I was sad that it happened, but the dog was chasing something. I couldn't get to my instructor brake. I couldn't grab the wheel. We couldn't hit the horn. It just happened. Sometimes things just happen. But then we had to do the responsible thing. And by the way, the owner told us, now, by the way, the dog should have been on a run, should have been in the yard, shouldn't be out chasing something. He let it loose. He also said that this was not the first dog that he had that was hit by a car. So it doesn't sound like he was that good of an owner, at least a pet owner. So let's talk about insurance. So we've had these crashes. Now it's time. We've got all this information. What do we do with it? And what is insurance, and why should we have it? Okay, I want you to write down insurance is a form of reassurance, kind of how it's funny how it sounds, of being made whole. So when you're driving, you're got a nice car and your body is healthy. When you get involved in a crash, your car gets banged up and your body gets bruised and injured. So what we need to do is we need to make you whole again. Most people don't have enough money to handle that out of the pocket. So what they do is they pool their money with other drivers into this big fund in case they need to use it. So think about it. If you were involved in a crash that did, let's say, $30,000 worth of medical bills, and that's not a whole lot, by the way. If someone has to go to the hospital, be treated, stay in the hospital for a couple days, maybe has surgery, $30,000 is not a lot of money when it comes to medical bills. Remember Jackie? She had millions of dollars with all those operations. And let's say that there was $10,000 worth of damage to the vehicle. So that's $40,000. Most people don't have access to that kind of money. So what you tell people is that if you give us $700, $800 to $1,000 a year, if you get involved in a crash, we'll take care of the medical payments. We'll take care of fixing your car. So you're assured that you'll be made whole again. That is the basis of insurance. Now, New Hampshire is one of the few states, I think there's only 3 other states, that tells you that once you get to the age of 18, you don't need insurance. You can drive without it. I don't think it's wise. Now, you're under the age of 18, so you're going to probably be going on your parents' policy, but at some point you're going to have to get your own. Insurance is expensive, especially for new drivers and for drivers that have been involved in many violations and crashes. So your driving history is going to have a bearing on what you pay for insurance. But just know that being 17, you have to be covered. You do. You're too much of a risk not to be covered. But once you get to be 18, then it's totally up to you and your parents whether you have insurance. But remember, you're going to be held responsible for paying for all damages. If you don't have insurance, you can't all of a sudden go out and buy it after the fact. You have to have it before the crash. Okay, so I'm a firm believer of always having insurance, just in case. Now, you may want to get inexpensive or basic insurance, but you should have insurance. And we'll talk more about that. New Hampshire is one of the most costliest states for new drivers. Your premiums are over the national average by 11%. We're 111%. We're over what the average is. Okay, you're paying a lot. Okay, you're paying a lot. Being a young driver, and by the way, insurance is based upon what you drive for a vehicle and where you live and how much driving that you do. So when you move to another state, your insurance rates will change because your age hasn't changed. You're still the same age, same driver. The car is the same. But basically, when you move to another state, they have a different formula. They use different numbers to come up with what their cost will be. So don't be surprised that you get whacked moving from town to town or from state to state. Your insurance rates will change. When is insurance required? These are situations: DWI, failing to stop, report a crash, homicide, second time for reckless driving. If you have a bad driving record, the state may say, even though you're 42, we still think you're a bad driver, so you need to have insurance. And the state will require you to have it. You're going to have it on file. So let's take a look, and I'm going to give you a video that Liberty Mutual. I used to have Liberty Mutual insurance for my personal cars, and they gave me this little clip here. I thought she did a really good job of breaking down insurance. So what I want you to write down is the terminology that she uses, and I'll be explaining each term. Think of insurance not as being just one item, but being like 7 or 8 components. So there's like 7 or 8 components to an insurance policy. You don't have to have all of them, but you should have most of them. So we're going to take a look at what she says about insurance, and then I'll explain it myself.
Hello, my name is Lisa LaLiberty. I'll be speaking on the basics of auto insurance. For most people, buying an automobile is their first major purchase. Actually, a new car is second only to a home as the most expensive purchase many consumers make. With vehicle prices averaging over $28,000, it's easy to see why one would want to protect that investment. Before we talk about coverage for the automobile itself, I'd like to start with what many people believe is the most important coverage of all, liability coverage. Liability coverage pays for the injuries or damage you or someone driving your car caused to other people or their property. The two liability coverages are called bodily injury liability and property damage liability. Every state has different laws dictating the minimum coverage you must carry for this. Some states require you to prove you have insurance before registering a motor vehicle, and other states use the honor system, where you only have to provide proof if you have an accident or violation. A typical state-required minimum coverage is 25-50-10, and I'll provide an example shortly to explain what that means. There are 4 states that do not require drivers to carry any liability coverage. Just because it's not required by law doesn't mean you don't need it. Let's say you have an accident. You're distracted momentarily and rear-end the BMW in front of you. There are 3 people in it, all of whom suffer some injury. If you're carrying liability coverage of 25-50-10, that means your insurance company will cover the cost of any one person's injuries, rehabilitation expenses, pain and suffering, and time lost from work up to $25,000. But they will not pay more than $50,000 for the accident, regardless of the number of people injured. This is the bodily injury portion. And your insurance company will pay up to $10,000 for the property damaged. So 3 people are injured. Let's say their injuries total $75,000. And the BMW has rear-end damage of $13,000. Your policy will pay for $50,000 for all injuries and $10,000 for the property damage. Where does the remaining $25,000 for bodily injury and $3,000 for property damage come from? Once your policy pays the maximum limits, you could be held personally responsible for the remaining amount. It's generally recommended that you carry more than the state minimum coverage to protect yourself from this financial risk. The next coverage under an automobile policy is medical payments coverage. This provision protects you and your passengers if you're hurt in a car accident, regardless of who's at fault. The coverage also extends to you and your family members if you're a passenger in someone else's car or if you're a pedestrian injured by an automobile. Medical payments coverage pays the medical bills resulting from an accident up to a per-person maximum, commonly $5,000. There are no deductibles and no waiting period under this coverage, and prescription drugs related to the injuries are covered. Consider that accident with the BMW again. Let's say that you and your passenger are both injured and taken by ambulance to the hospital. Medical payments coverage of $5,000 will cover the cost of the ambulance ride, the emergency room visit, and subsequent doctor's visits up to $5,000 per person. If your medical bills total $7,000 and your passengers total $3,000, the policy will pay $8,000 under this coverage. Some states have a medical payments coverage known as Personal Injury Protection, or PIP. This coverage may have a deductible, and it may allow you to collect for lost wages and rehabilitation expenses, 2 things that regular medical payments coverage does not cover. A third coverage provided by an automobile insurance policy is uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. This coverage is quoted similarly to bodily injury liability. Even though mandatory insurance laws exist in 48 states, nearly 15% of all accidents are caused by uninsured drivers. Uninsured motorist coverage provides protection for you and your passengers when you're injured in an accident with an uninsured motorist. It will cover your medical bills, rehabilitation expenses, lost wages, pain and suffering, things you could have claimed against the at-fault party's insurance if they had it. Underinsured motorist coverage will cover those same losses if the at-fault party's coverage is insufficient for your loss. Keep in mind, in most states, the uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage applies to injury only and not for damage to your vehicle. Protection for your automobile is provided under the collision and comprehensive portions of a policy. Collision coverage applies when you have an accident involving another vehicle or an object, such as a telephone pole, a guardrail, a building, or when you overturn your vehicle. Comprehensive coverage applies in losses involving fire, theft, vandalism, broken glass, hitting an animal, flood or hail damage, or other losses not caused by collision. These coverages have a deductible, the amount you must pay before the insurance company pays for damages. Common collision deductibles are $500 or $1,000, and common comprehensive deductibles are $100 or $250. If your automobile is financed, then you're required by the bank or financer to carry comprehensive and collision coverages until that loan is paid off. It's important to note, an insurance company will never pay more to fix your vehicle than the vehicle is worth. Two other coverages available through many insurance companies are towing and emergency road service and rental car reimbursement. While these coverages are optional, I always recommend them as part of my full coverage package. Automobile insurance rates are based on many factors, including where you live, your age, what you drive, how much you drive, and the coverage you carry. One way to keep your insurance costs down is to take high comprehensive and collision deductibles. As a vehicle gets older and is not financed, many people choose to drop these two coverages completely as a way to save money. Additionally, many people choose to pay for small claims out of their own pockets as a way to keep their rates down. But remember, the coverage you carry is just one of the factors contributing to the cost of insurance. There are things you can do to make sure you get the best price possible. The first is to keep your driving record clean. Your driving record is used as a predictor of future experience. Accidents and violations stay on your record for 3 years, and major violations and suspensions stay on for 5 years. Many companies now use a scoring model that combines your driving record with a variety of other information, including certain elements of your credit history and prior insurance claims to determine your cost for insurance. This means that paying bills on time could affect your insurance rate, as could the number of claims you file on your policy. Automobile insurance can be confusing, but a little knowledge can go a long way in providing you the protection you need.
Okay, that was probably a little confusing. Probably a lot confusing. I mean, I used to sell insurance, not auto insurance, life insurance. All the numbers get so confusing and the terminology. And she went through it relatively quickly. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I do want to break down a couple things for you. All right. So let's talk about insurance. Okay, these three terms I do want you to know. One of them will be on the final. So policy, premium, deductible. All right, so write down each one. And by the way, the first one, a policy is a legal contract. It's something that's yearly. It's between you and the insurance company. They're the ones that draft it. They're the ones that formulate it. You're the one that agrees to the terms of it. So whatever that policy states, what it will do, what it won't do, you agree upon. If you don't agree upon it, I would never sign it. Now, once you do sign it, it becomes binding if it goes to court. They have to uphold their end of the bargain. You have to hold up yours, basically paying for it, okay, and the way that you drive. Now, a premium, okay, write this down, is the total cost of that policy. Let's make it really simple. Let's say $1,200. It's going to cost you for insurance. Now, most of you are going to say, $1,200, that's a ton of money. Every year, as long as I drive for that particular car, I don't have that kind of money. Well, do you have a part-time job? Yeah. Well, how much do you make a month? Oh, probably $250. Well, how about if we just charge you $100 a month for 12 months? Then it'll be $1,200. You'll be able to pay for it all. Well, I could do that. So it could be broken down into different pay schedules. The thing that you need to understand, though, that you break it down into more small parts, the more it's going to cost you. So if you pay in one lump sum, $1,200, that's what it's going to be. You pay every month, when you total it all up over 12 months, it could be closer to $1,350. You're paying an extra $10, $15 a month for what they call administrative cost. Now, this is a term that a lot of people don't understand, even adults. So write this down, deductible. It's kind of a strange word, deductible. The amount of money you pay for each crash before the insurance company pays the remaining cost. Whoa, wait a minute here, Mr. Toll. You just said that I'm paying $1,200 a year for insurance. So if I get in a crash, aren't they supposed to pay for all of it? That's not the way the policy was written. They're finding to keep the cost down for everybody. They charge you a premium, and then they tell you for every crash, because you could have 3 crashes in a year. You could have multiple crashes in a month. So for every crash, you're going to put some money to the insurance company before they take over, just like she explained it. Let's say it was $1,000 worth of damage. You have a $100 deductible. You pay $100, the insurance company pays $900. You have 3 crashes, all $1,000, same thing. You pay $100, $100, $100 3 times because you had 3 crashes. The insurance company pays $900, $900, $900. But guess what? At the end of your policy, which remember, it's a year, what do you think your $1,200 premium is going to be like if you've had 3 crashes in 1 year? It's going to be more. So like they said in the video, your driving record has a direct correlation to what you're going to be paying. So those that are good drivers will pay less. Those that are bad drivers will pay more. I will tell you honestly, think about this. You are 16, 17 years old. You're going to be driving in your 70s, 80s. You're going to be driving for 60, 70 years. Other than paying for college and buying a home, driving a vehicle is your 3rd most expensive item in your life. You have to be smart about insurance. Anything that you can do to reduce what you pay is more money for you to do other things that you may want to do. Go skiing. Take a trip. Buy a nice sound system. Buy a TV. But your insurance policy is expensive. And like they said, for 3 years, when you get a bad driving record, that stays with you for 3 years. So when they say it's no longer $1,200, it's $2,000, it's going to be $2,000 a year for the next 3 years. So don't think it's a 1 year, I'll just, work extra hard, pay for all my damages, my deductibles, and, next year, I'll get cheaper insurance. No, you probably won't. It'll be more expensive. All right, let's break down insurance really quick. Financial responsibility, this is what the state requires. You don't have to write this down. 25 for injury or death to one person, 50,000 injury or death to more than one person. So that means if there are 3 people in the car, the 3 people are sharing that 50,000. 25 for property damage. Now that is a pretty weak looking policy. So that's the minimum the state requires. I gave you right here 100, 300, 500, 100, 300, 50,000. I would replace those numbers that you see to the right and left with the numbers that I gave you what common coverage. You can build your own policy. You can have as much coverage as you want. You just can't go below those minimum if the state says you have to have those. I will tell you the driver's ed vehicle has way more coverage than what I've got listed up there. Because I drive almost every day with at least 6 or 7, 8 students. The likelihood of being involved in a crash is pretty high, having a new driver. Okay, so luckily, I can tell you that I have never had a student that caused a crash. Like I showed you, we've been involved in them, but it wasn't our fault. So that's why I have insurance, to take care of what could have happened. Take care of. Oh, by the way, the winner is Grayson. The damage to the vehicle, that little dent cost $3,300, $3,300 to get fixed. And it took me nearly a week and a half, 2 weeks to get it done. I had to give him my car and I didn't get it back for about 2 weeks. It was crazy. Now, most of you said between like $250 and $600, $700. You would think something like that would be minimal. It's expensive. Cars are expensive to get fixed. So just remember, when you tell someone, oh, it doesn't look that bad, I'll have my dad take care of it, we'll pay for it out of pocket. You thinking a couple $100 when it's maybe a couple $1,000. So Grayson, you get the tire gauge. So I want you to write this down. Liability is the most important type of insurance. And I don't want you to write down everything here. All I want you to write down is liability is the most important type of insurance because it takes care of the other person. It takes care of the other person. Their medical bills, funeral bills, pain and suffering, legal costs, repair of the car, everything. You may not care that your car's banged up, what it looks like. You may not care that you got a broken leg. You'll pay the hospital, $50 a week, until it's paid off. But you want to take care of the other person. You don't want to get sued. So liability insurance is your most important. Now, the next two deals with your car, collision and comprehensive. That's for repair or replacement to your vehicle. Natural disasters, like we had a lot of rain. So if there was any type of flooding where the water kind of seeped up, about 1.5 feet, so it came up higher than the floorboard. So you've got like 3 inches of rain or rainwater, in your car. It's going to pay to get it, dried out and maybe replace the rugs and stuff like that. Keep the deductible as high as possible. And by the way, you do have some control over the deductible, meaning that don't go with a low deductible, go with a high. So I want you to write that down. Okay? Don't go with low, go with high deductible. I'll write something down. Hold on. So I'm going to try to get out my little pad here. I can't find my pen. I don't know what I did with it. What did I do with my pen? Oh, there it is. All right, let me get out of here. All right, let me write this down. All right, so to do this, high deductible makes your premium go low. All right, so let me give you an example. If you did $500 on your deductible, your premium's $1,000. All right? So if you had a $500 deductible, which is a high deductible, most of the time they do about $100 to $250. So if you went to $500, your premium is going to be $1,000. So if you went with a low deductible, so let's go with a low deductible. Let's do $100. Guess what your premium's going to be? Your premium is now $1,500. It went up $500. Remember, a premium is what you pay every year. So you're guaranteed you have to do that. Even, you're not going to be involved. You hope you're not going to be involved in a crash. You only pay the deductible if you're involved in a crash. So I personally always go with $1,000 deductible. $500 sometimes, but most of the time I do the $1,000. And with $1,000 deductible, the premium may go down to $750, $800. So I'm only have to pay that $800 every year. And if I never get involved in a crash, that's great. That's great. But when I do, I have to pay $1,000, and then the insurance company pays for the rest. So go with a high deductible. That will keep your premium low. So that's what that was explaining. Next thing, medical or personal injury. So if you have good medical insurance, you probably don't have to have this on your policy. Usually they only cover up to about $5,000. So that's usually a trip to the hospital being checked out by doctors, just, minor stuff. So you want to drop that. Roadside assistant rental reimbursement is sometimes part of a policy. I never get it on my policies because I have another driver's ed vehicle. If I had to use it, I actually equipped my wife's car with a brake, so I could just call the insurance company, switch everything over, reattach the brake. I have a truck, so if I needed to get to work, if I was just working, let's just say construction, didn't need my car, I could take my pickup. All these different items that I was talking about, liability, comprehensive, collision, medical, uninsured motorists will be the next slide, but roadside assistant, rental, each one has a money value. So when someone says your insurance policy is $1,200, tell them, well, wonder if I got rid of roadside and rental, what would it do? Oh, it just went down $100. Oh, that's great. Wonder if I got rid of comprehensive. I really don't care what my car looks like, so if someone hits me, scratches my car, it's not that big of a deal. Well, we'll drop it $200. Wow, that's great. Now I'm down to $800 or $900. So you can just keep on playing with your insurance policy to get to where you want your premium. Most people don't know that. They go to an insurance agent and they go, I want car insurance. And guess what? I don't want to insult anybody that has, parents that may be in the insurance business, but they're making a living. Most of them are reputable and honorable, but you will find some people, depending on who you know. That's why I always say go to people you know or who gets recommended to you. So always ask for, recommendations by friends. Some people will, pad their pockets by charging you more than what they really should. So check it out. Now with the internet, we can basically alleviate a lot of that stuff. Don't even need an agent. We can buy insurance right online. If you borrowed someone's vehicle, what happens if you borrow a car and get into an accident? So find out from your insurance company whether that is, acceptable. A common myth is that if your friend is borrowing your car and has insurance, it's your car's insurance that covers the damage, but it's not true. It's yours. So just remember, when you give your friends the key to your car or your parents' car, it's your insurance that's going to cover what he does. So if he runs over a pedestrian, guess what? It's on your dime. So be very careful of who you let drive your vehicle or your parents' vehicle. And this is another reason why I had someone from class that, and this was a good point. He says, I can't drive my dad's truck. It's a company truck. Because the company says, no, I don't want anybody but you driving it. No family members, nothing, because I don't want to be liable. And that's the way a lot of companies set it up. And that's important for you to know and respect and honor. The other thing that I want you to realize that insurance companies are sexist. And what I mean by that, it's a numbers game. And you can see there's a lot of insurance companies listed here. Sometimes males pay more, sometimes females. But for the most part, males will pay more for insurance because we find more males having crashes and more males getting tickets. So it's a numbers game, like I said. So we want to insure the people that are the best drivers with lower rates and those that are bad drivers with the highest rates. And it usually works out males are worse, females are better. Okay? It's just the way the numbers bear out. So what could you do? Compare rates every year or two. I will tell you, write this down, show this to your parents tonight, say it's a recommendation from my driver's ed teacher. I will guarantee everyone right now, if your parents went on the phone and called the insurance company or a different insurance company and say that they wanted to switch, I would imagine within 2 or 3 phone calls, you would find the same policy that your parents have right now at a cheaper rate because they want your business. When you stay with an insurance company year after year, it goes up little by little by little because they know most people are comfortable paying the bill or it's coming out automatically. If you shop every 2 years, I'll guarantee you'll save a couple $100. Easy. Easy, easy, easy. When I left Liberty Mutual, I think with my daughter, I think I saved like $600. Went to a different company. $600. And by the way, if your parents haven't checked out what insurance is going to cost, don't do it before Thanksgiving. Wait till Thanksgiving is over because they're going to get sticker shock. To be put on your parents' policy, it'll probably range between $600-700 on the low end for females, and then for guys, $1,500 maybe. Okay, over $1,000, depending on what you're driving for a car. It's going to be a ton of money. I am telling you, insurance is not cheap. So drop collision comprehensive on older cars. You don't need it. So when they tell you, I've given you a full policy, say, I don't want a full policy. I've already talked about the deductible. So change that. Take another take another driving course, because they find the more training that you get, the better you're going to be. You're not going to be a bad driver because you're taking driving seriously. Your driving record is going to probably be your best thing to do. Good grades. I know that some of you are very good students. I can just tell by the work that you've given me. Some of you are not good students. I can tell that by the work you haven't given me. You could save. My nephew, this was years ago, my brother told me that if he was on the honor roll, they would have saved $300 a year. That's a lot of money. And that's for every year that you have your license while you're still in school. So sophomore, junior, senior year. That's $1,000. Pay up front. Pay them on time. Go on your parents' policy as long as you can. I will tell you right now, I know kids that have graduated high school. Their parents wanted them to be responsible, and they've had to go out on their own, buy their own car, insure their own car. Their car insurance, and this was years ago, was $2,500. $2,500 for an 18-year-old. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's a lot of money. So do anything that, choose a car less popular by thieves. By the way, the myth of that you're paying more for the red car or the color of your car, it's not true. That's false. That's false information. Okay? So it's not based upon the color of your car. There are apps that you can use to make your claim. Like I said, take pictures, send the information, and you can get your car fixed at any place that you want. And a lot of times you're not going to even see your insurance agent. It's going to be talking on the phone or doing everything through the computer and through the app. And State Farm, I found this online. State Farm has an app, and here's they're explaining it. Let me show you.
Hello, my name is Lisa LaLiberty. I'll be speaking on the basics of auto insurance.
I clicked on the wrong one. Here we go.
When small accidents happen, don't let it take up more time than it has to. Let Allstate's Quick Photo Claim help get you back to your routine without the extra hassle. Once you've downloaded the Allstate mobile app, you can use Quick Photo Claim to submit your damages easily on your smartphone. The Quick Photo Claim feature within the Allstate mobile app is designed to use photos of your vehicle to provide a repair quote for minor damage without having to meet an adjuster or visit a body shop. To begin, make sure you're in a safe, well-lit area and that you have a good cellular connection. Open your Allstate app and select Quick Photo Claim from the home screen. After entering your claim number, the app will prompt you to take at least 3 photos of the damaged area. To avoid glare, turn your mobile camera's flash off. Tap the screen to focus the camera if the shot seems blurry. Next, Quick Photo Claim provides a frame for you to take photos of all 4 corners of your vehicle. The last step is to capture a photo of your odometer and VIN. The app will show you multiple locations where you can find your VIN on your vehicle. After the photos are submitted, an adjuster will review the information. Claim payments can be set up through the Allstate mobile app if you are registered and logged into My Account. Small accidents don't have to be a hassle. Download the Allstate mobile app and let Quick Photo Claim handle your fender bender in no time. Available for download in the App Store or Google Play.
So that's a basic rundown of insurance, and I'm kind of looking up here at the clock, and I don't have a lot of time for highway driving, so I'm going to switch over to manual transmission that we weren't able to talk about the first week of class, because I do believe that at some point in your life you should learn how to drive a manual transmission vehicle. We had it in the textbook. They talk about the terminology and how it's different than an automatic transmission. So in the next 15 minutes or so, I think I'm going to kind of go over some of the points on driving a manual transmission. So write this down in your notes. So let me get back to the first slide here. Learning to drive a standard transmission or a manual transmission. The only difference between what we have in our vehicles right now being an automatic transmission and a manual is that an automatic takes you from gear to gear, speed to speed, depending on how much acceleration you're applying to the pedal, the gas pedal. So it's done automatically for you. But in a manual transmission, regardless of how much you're pushing down the gas pedal, if you're not in the appropriate gear, then your car is only going to go so fast. It won't go any faster. So what you need to do is to go up chronologically from first to second, second to third, third to fourth, in order to get to the appropriate speed that you want to be traveling. So you have more control over your speed and your car. It's a lot more fun, I will tell you that. Look at that car. Isn't that a beauty? I mean, if it's a sports car, it can't be an automatic. You're more involved and you're less likely to be texting and driving because your hand has to be on the shift lever and your feet have to be operating the clutch and the gas pedal and the brake. And when you do have a manual transmission vehicle, you have 3 pedals and not 2. And you're thinking, wait a minute, 3 pedals, I only have 2 feet. So how am I going to drive a manual transmission? Well, your left foot will be for using the clutch or the brake. You will never use your right foot for the brake or the clutch. Okay? So your left foot's going to be doing 2 things, sharing the clutch and sharing the brake. Right? Your right foot is going to be for clutching. Okay? Your right foot's going to be for accelerating. Okay? And braking. All right? You are going to have to brake with your right foot. So, here are the 3 things for movement of a vehicle. It's dependent upon your clutch, which is the pedal right, left of the brake pedal. You're going to have a stick shift, and you're going to have your accelerator. And you're going to have to learn how to use these 3 things in conjunction with one another. And that's the hard part. It is a rhythm sequence, meaning that if you're out of rhythm, out of timing, driving a manual transmission is going to be very difficult. It's going to be very, very choppy. So, as I said, the clutch is the left foot from the left of the brake. It must be fully depressed down to be disengaged to break the connection between the engine and the transmission. That way the car does not stall. Now, when you let up on the clutch pedal, let's say that pedal is let go of about halfway, and you push down on the accelerator, the car will start to move. It will be engaged to move. Now, if you don't let go of the clutch pedal all the way and you don't push down on the gas pedal a little bit further, then maybe just, a half an inch or so, the car won't do anything. It will just stay there. But the minute the clutch goes from that halfway point being released and up, and you start to accelerate, you will start to move forward at a slow speed. You don't need to know the shift pattern. I'm just going to show you that there are like a 5-speed here. Here's a car that's kind of in reverse when it's all the way over to the right and down. Friction point, I do want you to write this down. I want you to understand this. That is the point where the transmission is engaged now. You're going to actually feel the movement of the vehicle. You're going to hear the movement of the vehicle. And the easiest way to practice this is by doing it in a lower gear. All right. So use your emergency brake when starting on a hill. So because you're taking your foot off the brake, getting to the accelerator and letting go of it a little bit, the car will roll back. But if you use the emergency brake, which we call a hill stop, okay, it will prevent you from rolling back into other vehicles. That's important. So friction point is something that I want you to know. You do not need to know all the gears and what speeds you're going to be traveling at that point. But you do want to move the gears one at a time. And you do want to kind of go up in chronological order. You don't want to skip going from first to third, then fifth. It's go first, second, third. Then if you're slowing down, then you go back to second or first. So it's always going up or going down. It's kind of like an elevator. Okay, you're going up, you're going down. You're not skipping floors. You're not skipping numbers. You're going all the way. All right? So that'd be downshifting. And downshifting helps you gain more power going up a hill, and it helps you for braking when you go down a hill. All right? And that's kind of some of the terminology. Let me show you just a little bit of the manual transmission video here.
So you want to drive a car with a manual transmission? Well, I have bad news and good news. The bad news is there are fewer models on the market now than ever before that have a proper 3-pedal manual transmission. The good news is the ones that do offer the feature are easier to learn on than old cars were. Whether you're going to drive a new car or an old car, I commend you, and I'll get you started. Now, the first part of the lesson is I'm going to explain what's going on when you're operating the manual transmission. Now, it isn't absolutely necessary. It could just be about a stick and a pedal. But what I found is people tend to grasp this a little bit faster, learn faster if they understand what is actually going on under the surface. A car with a gas or diesel engine has a transmission with multiple gears for the same reason a bicycle does. A good bicycle, not one of those retro hipster one-speed bikes, please. The idea behind having these gears is you can pedal only so fast, and you'll reach a certain point, and to go faster, you need to shift up. Same thing is true with a car's engine. Let's take a look at the tachometer. The tachometer is a gauge that shows engine speed, and essentially all cars have them, even automatic. You just don't pay attention to it. It'll be marked typically 1, 2, 3, 4, or in some cases 10, 20, 30, but the idea is multiplied by some number that is the revolutions per minute of the engine. And when you hit the gas a bit, you'll see the needle goes up as the engine speed increases. Typically, though, a gas engine will run only up to about 6,000 to 8,000 RPM. It depends on the car, and there are some exceptions. In this car, it's about 7,400 RPM where you see a red line begin. And that red line is called the red line. And the engine is not supposed to run in the red line because it can be damaged. Now, newer cars are less likely to actually incur damage than older ones, but still, that's not where you want to be. So, if you want to go faster and faster in a car, you need to be able to shift to the next gear. Simple, right? Just like a bicycle. Well, there's one area where it's not like a bicycle. On a bicycle, when you start out, you just pedal 1, 2, 3, 4. You can start from a standing stop. An engine, on the other hand, has an idle speed of typically 750 RPM. So it'll run from 750 RPM to, in this case, 7,400. But below 750, nothing. So what's happening is, when you're sitting still, your engine is going 750 RPM, and your transmission and the gears are not moving at all. And you've got to get them going together at the same speed. And that is going to be your job through the use of the clutch pedal. And you are going to suck at it. It's going to be hilarious. To me, you're going to hate it, but I'm laughing just thinking about it. But here, you probably ought to laugh at it too, because you're going to be bad. But if you stick with it and practice, you're going to get better. So let's start with the pedals. You'll see the extra one here, the third, that is the clutch pedal. But it looks like there are 4 pedals in this car, and that is because this one is, it's technically called the dead pedal, but a better word for that is the footrest. It doesn't really do anything. And footrest is a good name because that is what you're supposed to do, and that is rest your foot there. Do not leave your foot on the clutch pedal. The whole point behind the clutch is use it, and then you get off of it. Put your foot on the dead pedal or the footrest. Here's an important tip before you even get started. When you're operating the clutch pedal, you need your whole leg. You're not putting your heel down, anchoring it like you might with the accelerator pedal and just tilting at the ankle. You need your whole leg. It's a little bit more like a brake pedal in that regard. Also, when you apply the pedal, you always go all the way down to the floor and release all the way out. Always step in all the way, release all the way, and when you're not using the clutch, rest on the dead pedal. Now, before you even head out, if you're just learning how to drive a manual transmission, think ahead and wear sensible shoes. You don't need fancy driving shoes or anything, but here's a tip. Don't wear a big clunky shoe, and don't wear anything with a big heel. And don't judge me. I'm trying to help you, and it's free. Once you learn how to drive, you can wear whatever you want, but for training purposes, be sensible. Now let's get to know the shifter, or the stick, which is how you put the transmission in the different gears. The pattern for the forward gears is pretty much the same in everything, and you'll see it either on top of the knob or somewhere nearby. Typically, the difference between vehicles is really just about how many forward gears it has. This car has 6. Older cars may stop at 4 forward gears. Some cars these days have 7. All just affects how much shifting you'll be doing. Now, one of the most important things you need to know is when it's not in gear, and that is neutral. Neutral position is straight in the middle of all of these, and you'll know it's in neutral when the stick wobbles left and right. Now, I'm going to step on the clutch pedal, even though the engine is off, and you'll see now I'm in first gear, up and to the left. Now notice it doesn't slide left and right. In neutral, there's my wobble. So first, second is below, to the right and up is third, and so on. It's pretty simple stuff. Now, all cars are going to have a reverse gear. That can be in a different location. It used to be up and to the right for a lot of cars. Nowadays, you're starting to see them on the left. The best cars will have a little lockout, like this lift collar, that prevents you from going into reverse unless you really mean it. And when you're practicing going into first, once you get a little bit good at that, you can start doing the same thing with reverse. Okay, you want to find an empty or nearly empty parking lot or road, and it's important that it be flat because you're going to be practicing taking off in first gear and reverse, and the effects of gravity can just complicate things. You need to start the car. When you start a manual transmission, it's always important to make sure it is in neutral. Wiggle that stick. And in newer cars especially, it's necessary, not just good practice, to step on the clutch pedal because that will allow the engine to start. Without stepping on that pedal, you can turn the key all you want. It wouldn't have started with a new car. So when you take off from a stop in a car with a manual transmission, you are essentially trying to coordinate the application of the gas and the release of the clutch pedal, or the engagement of the clutch. But what I'm going to do is have you practice first without stepping on the gas at all. Just use the clutch pedal to get a feel for the clutch engagement. Now, when you lift off the pedal, you're engaging the clutch. When you step on, you're disengaging. I'm just going to call it clutch in and clutch out because that's the simplest thing to remember when the time comes to actually do it. So what you'll do is you're going to watch my feet, watch everything I do. You're stepping on the clutch pedal, all right? Stick goes into first. I happen to have the brake on, so I'm going to take the parking brake off. And then you're just going to slowly let that clutch pedal out. See what I'm doing right now? Now, if you have a newer car, this is actually a little easier because the engine control unit, the computer, senses the load and will compensate and give you a little bit more gas. So here you can see my foot's off the pedal. I'm in first gear and I'm moving. Pretty simple stuff. Every car is different. I'm going to do it again for you. Here's how we stop. I've got my foot over the brake, clutch in, and I pull the shifter out of first into neutral and come to a stop. All cars are different. What you're doing is you're getting a feel for where the clutch engages. In some cars it's lower in the pedal travel, like close to the floor, and some it's higher up. All cars are at least a little bit different. So again, clutch in, first gear, let it out slowly. And there you go. You putter around. You can putter around a little bit in first gear if you want to. We'll discuss whether or not we drive in first gear in a bit. So clutch in, stick into neutral, brake, we stop. Now it's actually the same situation for going in reverse, aside from the gear being different. Clutch in, I'm lifting the collar as necessary for this, putting it in reverse, and slowly letting that pedal out. Now, I am looking behind me and I have a backup camera, so I don't want it to look like I'm just blindly backing up. There we go. And we're moving. Now you might find that, I'm going to stop now, ready? Remember, clutch in, brake, and take the stick into neutral. Reverse gear tends to be a little bit faster than first because it's the only one you got. So it will feel a little bit different. You're going to want to practice with that too. Now, having gotten a feel for the clutch application, I'm going to show you how we apply the gas and release the clutch at the same time. And it lets you do the same thing you just did, but faster. Here we go. Clutch in, first gear. Now, watch my feet. I'm going to add some gas and release the clutch, and we're moving in first gear. You can hear.
Okay, so that's a rundown of operating a manual transmission. I thought it'd be good to kind of see a video of how that basically takes place. Don't shy away from ever trying to get behind the wheel of a car to learn manual transmission. It will be a little frustrating at the beginning, but it is a skill that I think that you should learn. It'd be a shame to ever need to drive a vehicle because you're somewhere, maybe out camping or with friends, and their vehicle is a manual transmission and you just can't drive it. That would be a shame if it was something that you needed to do. So go to the remote Facebook page, and I will have posted, I told you this morning, I've done a sheet for highway driving. We'll get to that tomorrow. That will be the first thing that we do tomorrow's class. We'll deal with the highway, and then we'll get into dealing with trucks and motorcycles and pedestrians. And then I will give you a review video that you can watch with some questions. You can test yourself on that. And I'll probably even link in the chapter 15 chapter that I was going to give you, but it really covered insurance that we covered tonight. So maybe I'll post that tonight or tomorrow morning. Just have that done by Wednesday's class. You will be fine. So we're going to wrap things up Wednesday's class with talking about distracted driving before we do the final. So if you got any questions, if you want to know about drive times, things like that, we've got all next week too. I don't have another class starting. We can finish up our driving. So just contact me when you're available driving. I guess we're under a new schedule on Mondays and Tuesdays. So if you are able to drive, just let me know and I'll see if I can squeeze you in. And I know it's a holiday weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but if you're willing to drive, I'm sure I can, not Thursday, maybe not even a little bit on Friday, I might be able to do, but we'll see. So just let me know. So go to the remote, download those worksheets, and I guess that's it for tonight. So we'll finish up. I know I'm still lagging behind, but I'll get it. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.